everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Bottom line up front, guys, we have a very active 7 to 10 days ahead of us here. So let's get right into the forecast. We got dangerous severe weather here heading into our day tomorrow on Friday with all severe weather hazards likely, including the potential for strong tornadoes. And then another severe weather outbreak looks to unfold early to middle portion of next week, centered around Tuesday, April 4th, with again more severe weather hazards. And then a major blizzard is possible next week across the northern plains and the upper Midwest. We'll get into all those details and much more in this weather forecast. But if you guys are not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on all of my daily weather forecast updates each and every morning at 9 a.m. on this channel. I cover southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics during tropical weather season. So be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and don't forget to press the like button, the thumbs up button down below the video. It helps to get as many people on here to watch this video as possible. We need all eyes on this storm system moving forward. So I do appreciate all the new subscribers and all the likes out there. Definitely much appreciated. But going into today, we have that trough deepening across the Intermountain West, and that will eventually eject and strengthen rapidly across the Midwest and portions of the Missouri Valley on Friday, and that will bring our significant system. You see all these weather alerts. We have winter storm watches up to the north here where we expect significant snow. We have red flag warnings where we're expecting some windy conditions over dry ground. Wind advisories across much of Missouri, Arkansas, much of the Mid-South here where we expect some very windy conditions today into Friday, and then even some high wind warnings across New Mexico, southeastern Colorado, into far west Texas here. And you can see these very strong winds on the right side of the system here where that strong mid-level jet will be. We're going to have some wind gusts into portions of southern and southeastern Colorado, much of central New Mexico, and maybe back as far west as eastern Arizona here. That could be approaching 60 to even 65 miles per hour here today into Friday. So very windy, and that will actually extend up into portions of the lower Midwest with at least some 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts going through your Friday time frame. With this system, though, we're going to start to see that strong mid-level jet rounding the base of this trough, and on the eastern side of that trough, we'll have to watch out for a warming trend. We see some warmer temperatures surging north out ahead of the system. Temperatures will be rising into the 70s and 80s out here across the central, southern plains, and really much of the southeast on Thursday today. And we'll be seeing a surge in the moisture. We have dew points all the way up to 50 degrees as far north as the Omaha region, Lincoln, Nebraska, with the deeper moisture with the 60-degree dew points found across southern Oklahoma near the Red River and into much of East Texas. So we'll watch that going forward. But we also have to look at what we call CAPE, convective available potential energy. And this is the energy needed for thunderstorms. The higher the value, the higher the chance of thunderstorms and thus severe weather. And you do see some 1,000 to perhaps 1,500 joules per kilogram of instability from eastern and central portions of Kansas down through much of Oklahoma and even into much of central Texas here. So we do have the energy in place for thunderstorms and even severe weather. And you can see we have two areas to watch. We got a low-end marginal risk up here into northeastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, extreme northwestern Iowa, and extreme southwestern Minnesota near the surface low. We could have some rotation up in these areas or at least some hail. And then farther to the south, we have a marginal risk covering eastern Kansas from Topeka, Wichita, down into portions of Oklahoma here, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Lawton, Fort Sill, and then down into North Texas. This includes the Wichita Falls region over here towards Sherman, Texas, just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex today. And we also have a 2% probability of tornadoes. So in addition to the damaging winds and large hail that these two areas could pose, we have the threat of some brief tornadoes down here across the Oklahoma City area, Tulsa, and then getting down toward Wichita Falls and Sherman, Texas, again, just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex as we get into later today. But the limiting factor, the caveat here, is what we call surface-based SIN, or a capping inversion. It's going to be holding pretty strong through much of the afternoon and the evening hours and actually strengthen as we go overnight. So this will try to prevent a lot of the storms from firing off here and initiating through the day on Thursday. And the reason why we see this is we have a lot of drought across portions of Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. So we have a lot of dry ground, not a lot of moisture to work with out here. So it actually strengthens that EML, or elevated mix layer, as it pushes farther east out of the western plains into the eastern plains and the Missouri Valley. And it actually provides us with a very strong capping inversion. So Thursday afternoon here today, 1 o'clock, we don't see much going on. Some spotty sprinkles out here from southwestern Missouri down through North Texas. Not that big of a deal. Going through the evening hours, again, we're going to struggle to see any of these storms popping here, especially even farther north into Nebraska. Not really seeing much. Trying to see some low top showers develop, but these are even struggling through the evening hours, and even toward the midnight time frame on Friday morning, we still don't really have much going on. We could have a little bit of enhancement up here near the surface low, with maybe some hailing type of storms with some pocket change hail, maybe up to quarter size up there into extreme northeastern Nebraska, far southeastern South Dakota there into northwest Iowa, southwestern Minnesota. We definitely have to watch that. But again, farther south, you notice not much going on here into the southern and central plains with that capping inversion, and that likely will hold true going into the morning commute on Friday at 6 a.m. So likely probably not seeing any severe weather, but we still have that conditional risk with a marginal risk and that tornado risk if storms do pop through that cap going through Friday morning. Otherwise, we got some more snow farther to the north across the Dakotas, getting into northern Minnesota, the UP of Michigan. A nice solid rain swath here from portions of lower Michigan, getting through Indiana, western Ohio, down into central Kentucky by 6 a.m. on Friday, just to soak the ground. I don't think this will be severe, just some heavier rainfall, maybe some rumbles of thunder with this getting into Friday morning. But things take a turn on Friday. We have a strengthening system, so we're also going to see a strengthening mid-level jet here rounding the base of this very strong trough, and you can see these colors here in the yellow. That is over 110 knots here on the mid-level jet. So we have an incredible amount of wind energy in the atmosphere just a few thousand feet up. That combined with warmer temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s all the way up into the Des Moines area, Cedar Rapids, northern Illinois into the middle 60s Friday afternoon, and also the low to mid 60s for dew points Friday afternoon here across portions of southern Wisconsin, eastern Iowa, and northern Illinois, all the way south to the Gulf of Mexico. So that will create a very deep reservoir of instability, or what we call CAPE, convective available potential energy, on Friday afternoon, and we see some decent values up here near the surface low, which does look concerning. We do have some orange colors up here, which is at least 2 to even 2,500 joules per kilogram as we go through the day on Friday, and even some 2,000 joules per kilogram energy down into the Mid-South and the Gulf Coast states as well on Friday. So with that in mind, the Storm Prediction Center has upgraded in 2 separate areas, more of a bimodal severe weather threat with a level 4 of 5, a moderate risk in the red here across eastern Iowa, northwest Illinois, extreme northeast Missouri, and then another area down into southeastern Missouri, portions of northeast Arkansas, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, and extreme northwestern Mississippi, with a large enhanced risk area remaining in place in the orange, the yellow shaded color, a slight risk in the dark green areas, with a marginal risk as far up here eastward into western and central Ohio, eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee there toward Knoxville, and then maybe getting as far south here as the Baton Rouge area and the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex as well on Friday. Looking at this and understanding the severe thunderstorm risk categories, a moderate risk means widespread severe storms are likely, and these will be long-lived and intense. So we definitely have to be watching out, especially in those red shaded colors, but even in that large orange shaded zone, that enhanced risk, level 3 of 5, numerous severe storms are possible. They're more persistent, and also a few of those could be intense as well. So we definitely have to watch this threat seriously. And now going to the hazards, what we can expect with these storms on Friday. So we have a 45% hatched area for wind up here across eastern Iowa, northwestern Illinois, into extreme northeastern Missouri, and this could cause problems. We could have wind gusts over 75, if not over 80 miles per hour in this region. Also a hatched 30% area of wind down across the Mid-South here, western and middle Tennessee, western Kentucky, extreme southeastern Missouri, northeast Arkansas to northern Mississippi. We could also see 75 to 80 plus mile hour winds down in in this area as well. Otherwise, in general, a 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gust mode across the rest of this outlook area is possible. And then a large tornado zone as well. You notice two areas of hatch tornado risk farther to the north here. Across the lower Midwest, we see that 10% hatched area of tornadoes. That means EF2 or stronger tornadoes are likely on Friday, and then a 15% hatch risk down here across the Mid-South around the Memphis area, Jonesboro, getting up toward Cape Girardeau there. That is a very concerning tornado probability down to the south as well, with those EF2 or stronger tornadoes possible. So looking farther to the north in that first area with a 10% hatched area for tornadoes, we do have what we call a SIGTOR or significant tornado parameter. And these are the values that the higher the values, the better the chances of significant EF2 or larger tornadoes could occur. And you could see some very high values, not only in southern Wisconsin, but much of Illinois, getting into southeastern Missouri. And I did pull a sounding from north central Illinois vicinity here on Friday afternoon and Friday evening, and it does show an extremely curved hodograph, very favorable for what we call a PDS tornado signature. So that means we could be seeing some violent long track tornadoes up there across the lower Midwest we have to watch out for. And then farther south, the significant tornado parameter is still there, not as high as to the north near the surface low, but still high enough to where the Mid-South vicinity still has a decent hodograph for a tornado, possibly even a long track strong tornado down here as well, going across portions of Jonesboro, Memphis, down in those areas as we go through the day on Friday. And then finally, the large hail probability, we have a 15% risk here at the highest, with even a hatched 15% chance of hail that could be 2 inches or larger in diameter across eastern Iowa, southwest Wisconsin, northwestern Illinois, and extreme northeastern Missouri. This covers Prairie du Chien, Dubuque, getting back to Cedar Rapids, Davenport, Iowa, getting all the way down here to the western portions of Illinois. Definitely watching out for that. So timing the storms up here to the north, noon time frame on Friday, all the rain to the east, maybe some sprinkles, scattered showers here across these areas in the warm sector by noon. We have to watch out to the west, toward Des Moines, down into northern portions of Missouri. This is the initiation point by mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock, and these could be some isolated, discrete supercells that could be posing a risk quickly for tornadoes, and also some very strong winds, and they will race to the east-northeast by early evening at 6 o'clock. These storms, any one of these storms could be posing a risk for a strong, violent, and long-track tornado, widespread damaging winds over 75 or 80 miles per hour, and also those 2-inch or larger hailstones from southwestern Wisconsin into northwest Illinois here and down into portions of west central Illinois, and then that will race eastward as a line of storms going through the evening hours. So definitely be on high alert to the north, but also across the southern areas here. We have some ongoing storms by noon. Some of these could pose a risk for some hail, but I think the real storms start about mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock. Any one of these storms could be posing a risk for tornadoes, large hail, and damaging straight line winds. This will turn more into a broken line of storms, with some embedded supercells, with some long track tornadoes possible into the early evening hours before it turns more to a heavy rain and damaging wind threat as it pushes east into southern Indiana, western Kentucky, middle and western Tennessee, down into northern portions of Mississippi, and maybe fishtailing its way down to the northwest side of the Houston metro area by late Friday evening. Then as we go into Saturday, this whole system pushes farther to the east. We got the snow to the north here, wrapping around the backside. Areas that see severe weather on Friday could see snowfall to finish the storm system off on Saturday morning. And then we have that cold front moving across the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, bringing more strong storms with two areas of a marginal risk. The first area up here into western New York State, western PA, getting into portions of eastern Ohio, and then a secondary area across the eastern Carolinas, southern Georgia, into southeastern portions of Alabama and North Florida on Saturday, April 1st. As we go towards the afternoon hours, a couple of these storms may have to be watched out for damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour and some quarter-size hail, especially up near the surface low on Saturday. So that will be something to watch. Maybe a brief spin-up tornado still across western New York State, western PA there into Pennsylvania, and eastern portions of Ohio. Otherwise, that system will peel off to the east by Saturday evening. And then by Sunday morning, getting ready for church out there, any of your errands you have to run on Sunday, it looks to quiet down across much of the eastern two-thirds of the country with a high-pressure system working in on the system's backside. But to the north, we have the snow to contend with. We have widespread winter storm watches in these teal shaded colors or the blue. That's across extreme southeastern North Dakota, much of South Dakota, the northern tier of counties here into Nebraska, much of the central Minnesota region, including the Twin Cities here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and parts of northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan. We have those winter storm watches, even winter storm warnings into northeastern portions of Wisconsin already. And you can see the snow is going to be laying out from Friday here tomorrow all the way through the weekend. Some decent swaths here of over 6 inches of snow. And locally, a couple of these areas could see 8, 9, even 10 inches of snow into portions of eastern South Dakota, getting through the Twin Cities region, and then over here into northern Wisconsin, closer to Lake Superior toward the UP of Michigan. We could be seeing 6, 7, even 8 inches of snow there going through the height of this weekend. But then our next system starts to emerge across the Pacific Northwest on Sunday. This is our next big storm we're watching. You see that trough organizing across Washington, Oregon here. This is going to be diving to the south toward portions of California and the desert Southwest on Monday, April 3rd. And this is going to be posing a risk for more heavy rain and heavy snow for the Pacific Northwest and the Intermountain West to start the work week next week. You can see on Sunday here, we're definitely seeing some very heavy rain, especially in those lower elevations. But as you go up in elevation into central Washington, central Oregon, or even central portions of Idaho, we're definitely going to be seeing some very heavy snow. That will push even further inland as that trough dives down towards the desert Southwest on Monday. And you can see some very heavy rain across portions of western Washington, western Oregon, maybe northwest California again. So Seattle down to Portland, the Eugene area, Medford, Oregon. Some of those areas could see some 1-inch totals from these rain showers. We have a little bit of a system moving through on Sunday into Monday down here across the south. That could pose a risk maybe for some stronger storms, potentially with some smaller hail and some gusty winds. Not an overall severe weather outbreak, but still some heavy rain from East Texas, northern Louisiana into western portions of Mississippi, maybe adding up to about 3/4 of an inch to an inch there. And then the snowfall threat farther to the west. Again, the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast here in the Rockies, we're going to be flourishing with more snowfall going through Sunday, Monday, and even into Tuesday early next week. So more mountain snow out to the west as we get in toward that time frame. But that system will really deepen and take a very similar track, if not maybe a little bit farther to the north early next week on Tuesday, as this trough really starts to eject across the upper Midwest, and then eventually on Wednesday next week on April 5th, ejecting all the way up into southern Canada. So whenever you see a trough ejecting from the central plains to southern Canada, you know there's going to be a big surge in temperatures. So on Sunday, temperatures will be returning back, southerly flow again, temperatures will be in the 60s, 70s, and even 80s down here, middle 80s for West Texas on Sunday. This will spread eastward, our first widespread 90s across much of central and north Texas on Monday, even some 80s up here into Oklahoma, southern Kansas, and then on Tuesday, widespread middle 80s from Texas all the way to Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, and those 60s and 70s surging all the way up into the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley regions. And this will spell trouble, especially on Tuesday, April 4th. We're going to have a deep toss of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico farther to the north, so the western Ohio Valley, the Midwest here, especially the lower Midwest, down towards the Arklatex again, 60-degree dew points, potentially mid-60 dew points on Tuesday, and a very big behemoth mid-level jet here yet again, rounding the base of that trough, is going to spell out a lot of wind energy on Tuesday. So there is no surprise, already 6 days in advance on their Day 6 severe weather outlook. The Storm Prediction Center has already lifted that slight risk for severe weather farther north into the same areas that will see severe weather on Friday across eastern and southeastern Iowa, much of Illinois, including northern Illinois, getting into portions of Indiana, western Kentucky, middle and western Tennessee, and then even portions of that orange area, an enhanced risk or 30% or greater probability for severe weather on Tuesday, April 4th, across southern Missouri, much of north central Arkansas, into eastern Oklahoma here. This will be an all-hazard severe weather outbreak again early next week, including tornadoes. So on Tuesday afternoon, we got a huge snowstorm, possibly a blizzard ongoing across the Dakotas here, western Nebraska, getting into Wyoming. We got the warm sector to the east. This is bottoms out around a 978 millibar low across somewhere into the Midwest here, probably eastern Nebraska on Tuesday afternoon, getting down to a 978 still as we get into southwestern Minnesota with that low, with an attendant cold front producing some severe weather from portions of Illinois all the way down to the Arklatex Tuesday night. So this will be a nocturnal threat with damaging winds, large hail, and isolated tornadoes again. That will push eastward with maybe more strong storms across the Tennessee Valley, the deep south on Wednesday afternoon, and getting into Thursday afternoon, maybe some marginally severe storms across the southeast and the east coast by that time. But the snowfall threat will be there. We possibly could have a blizzard. We have possibly over a foot of snow on the way across parts of the Dakotas, getting back here into northwestern Minnesota, and even western Nebraska could see over 6 inches of snow according to the European forecast model. The GFS model is fairly similar. However, it's a little bit more amplified with the trough, so it pushes the snow line just a little bit farther to the north. But still, any way you slice it, it does look like a full-on blizzard is likely going in towards the middle of next week, with very strong 850 millibar winds in the low-level jet mixing down towards the surface here and blowing that snowfall around. The European forecast model is the most aggressive, but still the GFS American model is still pretty strong with this low, so we'll have to continue to watch this moving forward. But now is the time. Know the difference between a watch and a warning here. A watch means be alert. Severe storms or tornadoes might form and affect your area. The conditions are favorable for the development of severe weather and tornadoes in a watch. A warning means take action now. A basement, a storm shelter, a sturdy structure of any sort. Stay away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outdoors as possible. A severe storm or tornado is imminent and expected in your area with a warning. So definitely know the difference between that and have multiple ways to get warnings here on Friday and into early next week, whether it's a smartphone, a laptop, a tablet, or anything like that on NOAA Weather Radio. Definitely very helpful as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. Remember to like the video down below, give it a thumbs up, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great and safe rest of your week, everybody, and I will see you all in the next video.